Hello and welcome to show number 19 of Global Perspectives with Dr. Michael Leitman, where we discuss what's happening in the world today. Hello, Dr. Leitman.
Shalom lekulchem.
Hello, everyone.
Today's topic is California burning. In fact, not only California, but all of America is under huge crisis. Where is America going? It seems like there is not a corner in this vast country that isn't experiencing some sort of a crisis, and often more than one at the same time. On the West Coast, you have the second and third largest fires in California history, burning at the same time. If we could show the images as I'm speaking, it would be great. These are burning along with 500 and more other fires all at the same time. The fire started after California was hit by no less than 11,000 lightning strikes in just 3 days. Incidentally, the 10 biggest fires in California history have all burned in the last 17 years, which tells you something about the climate. California is not only burning, but the smoke-filled air makes it even more difficult and often risky to wear face masks to protect from COVID-19. Which is raging all over the U.S. and has so far infected nearly 6 million people and has killed more than 180,000 people. A little north of California, in Oregon, anarchists have taken over downtown Portland and have terrorized residents, looted stores, disrupted life, and attempted to set ablaze the federal courthouse in the city. These riots are still continuing. In the Gulf of Mexico, in southern United States, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana are currently being hit by a tropical storm, which is to be followed in 2 days' time by a hurricane, all within 2 days. In Chicago, the Magnificent Mile high-end shopping street has been looted and its shops destroyed by anarchists, in addition to an extreme wave of gun violence. Many wealthy people in Chicago are trying to move out of the city, but can't find buyers for their downtown apartments. Not far from Chicago, in Wisconsin, this was just a couple of days ago, a white officer-involved shooting of an unarmed black man behind his back in front of his children reignited the protests against police brutality. This is still going on. And I understand that the National Guard has been called to help with the protests and the riots happening there in Wisconsin. In New York City, gun violence has spiked this year, and so far more than 1,100 people have been slain by gunfire alone since the beginning of the year, just in New York City. And while all this is going on, hunger is spreading all over the U.S. According to Forbes magazine, at minimum, the number of households that lack stable food supply has doubled and possibly tripled in just 2 years, making the current rates of food insecurity of nearly 30% on country average higher than at any point since data collection began. We're talking about roughly 100 million hungry people in the U.S. alone, many of whom are children. This image that you're seeing now from Brookings Institution shows that as of April this year, 34% of households with children under 18 suffered from lack of food, and 41% of households with children under 12 suffered from that same food insecurity. Again, we're talking about many millions of hungry children in what was supposed to be the land of unlimited possibilities. America has always known crises, but in recent years, and especially this year, the rate seems to have picked up so much that they're all happening at the same time. What is going on here?
Yeah, I see that I have to explain this. What is going on? We have reached a new state in human development. We went through many stages in our development. since we've developed from monkeys and until we reached the degree of a savage. That actually the development was entirely negative. And as the wisdom of Kabbalah explains, and in general we see that it all developed only due to our evil, the human evil nature, which is our ego. The ego, it grew and developed and pushed us to egoistically develop and evolve against each other. We built society, industry, the world, in other words. But this entire world is made up of the evil, the force of bad, that I want to be better, greater than others. I don't care about anyone else. If I feel that I have some kind of security, as long as I care, the others can cease to exist altogether. Meaning, we have no good, positive force in the relations between us. There is no good direction, inclination. We've based and built everything only on the force of bad, of evil. The question is, how long can we exist this way? We have reached a state where really, at the end of our development, we've built America, an unlimited country without any limitations. You can do whatever you want. Everyone's free, the land of the free, full of opportunities and everything for everyone. The question is it good? Is it correct? When we look at nature, at the still, the vegetative, and the animate, we see that as opposed as they are to one another, eating each other up in order to survive. But when an animal eats something else in order to survive, it's within the boundaries that nature sets for it in time, space, and so on. And this exists on the animate level necessarily under the force that is instilled by nature, and therefore everyone lives in this food chain, in the correct food chain. Eating each other, that's true, but no more than each of them needs in order to help himself and others, actually, because an animal eats actually the weak, the ill. And so what happens is that any part of the still, the vegetative, and the animate that live off each other help them actually, help the other species, keeping them healthier, making them healthier. We see this also when we want to, suppose, destroy the wolves. When we wanted to destroy the wolves, we saw how deer and other animals became ill. They started getting ill because wolves, when they eat the ill, they eat those that can't survive, can't make it, and those that remain are the strong, and they continue the next generation. We human beings, we don't do that. We do not live according to the laws of nature, but we live according to the law of man to man is wolf. We hate each other. We destroy each other. We're willing to do anything and everything just for the other not to be or have more than I do. And the ego dwells between us, controlling us, not allowing us to have a normal life. Our entire life. Even animals don't do that, don't live this way. We position our entire life in order to destroy the other person, eradicate him. This is how our human ego works. If on the animate level, all animals know how to behave and eventually, naturally, instinctively protect one another. that they take what they need in order to fulfill themselves, whatever they need to eat, at the expense of the other, so to speak. They catch that animal, eat it, but that's it, and no more. And therefore, this balance, the balance in nature is kept. And there is no such thing that wolves destroy everything or birds destroy everything, but it all works with nature instinctively in a way that there are no problems, there's no crisis. When man comes into the picture, he actually has to manage himself with his intellect, his emotion, by knowing the integral law of nature. He doesn't do that. He wants to destroy everyone, completely burn, break, kill everything, just in order to be the ruler. And what happens tomorrow? He doesn't care. In his increased ego, excessive ego, he can't see the tomorrow. And here there has to be some kind of other program that will kick in and will limit man from destroying our planet. The program exists, only we have to try. We have to try and unfold it and use it. In the meantime, it's not happening. People don't want to reveal it, don't want to use it, don't want to understand that the way they exist in, they're destroying their tomorrow.
There's no question that the ego today is a problem. I think everyone recognizes it already. But to say that all of our development, of our evolution was negative is a bit extreme, because because otherwise we wouldn't have civilization. We wouldn't develop anything. We wouldn't develop our intellects, our everything we have. We would still be living in caves, basically, and we wouldn't become, the human race that we are now. Was it all bad? Everything, was it better for us to stay on the trees and in caves?
No. We can't stay on trees and in caves, and it also was not up to us. It's not we that have decided that we want to develop. But of course, the ego is what developed us and advanced us all the time toward social development, human development, scientific developments, and so on. That's true. The problem is that despite this force that's pushing us to develop, it's also pushing us to an evil kind of development.
So that's the problem.
Yes.
Not that we have the ego that's developing us, but that it's making us be mean toward each other.
Ken. Yes, exactly. But here too, we have to understand that the revelation of evil, our evil toward each other, it's also good. It's in order for us to change ourselves, for us to develop ourselves, despite the evil force that exists in us, the hate that we have toward others, for us to develop connection with others, and then we can also be included of the good and bad forces, the rejecting force and the force of connection, of attraction. And then it's like in electricity, you have plus and minus, like all of the forces of nature that consist of two, positive and negative. And then, by being in between these two forces, we ourselves will be able to develop on the human level.
One of the things that puzzles me is, does it only seem like America is taking more hits than any other country, or is it really so? Because, all other countries, I would think, are egoistic as well, if the ego is related to those disasters happening there. But it seems like America is taking all the blows. It's like it's absorbing all the blows for all of human race, or maybe it's just my imagination. Is this so? And if so, why specifically America?
America is a special country. First of all, it's not a country of one nation like France, Germany, any other country. You have the original nation and another 10% or even 20% of those that immigrated to that country, that joined that country. But still, there is culture, education, a basis, foundation, including religion, including the place, history, including a feeling, the DNA of a nation that also belongs to that nation. And these are very deep things that we don't even know about. We don't even understand how deeply rooted all that is in a nation, in the nature, in nature itself that has developed us into the 70 nations of the world. And therefore, what happens is that America is a very special, unique country. There's no other country in the world that consists of all nations, and that there's no one race or nation which is the first fundamental one that the country is based on.
No, keep going. I'm listening. So, in what way is it special?
And then what happens is that the American nation has no basis, has no feeling that they are all in one place, that they all came from one mother, and therefore no one feels committed to anyone else, close to anyone else. Everyone comes in order to settle down and to live his life. You came from another country, I came from another country, and we all came as if without having anything to do with each other. And the feeling that we don't belong to each other exists deeply in everyone, so much so that as much as I care, everyone can die. I don't naturally feel that they're related to me in any way. And this is the foundation of all separation that exists between them. Besides, when they came to America, this area, it belonged to Indians, but actually they disagreed. They gave the Indians some privileges, but redundant things. They feel that the entire country, the entire area is spread in front of them. Please go ahead, you can do whatever you want with it. And they also established a law. No one dictates anything to anyone else, but everyone's equal. And this equality also destroys everything, because in nature there is no equality. And also, I can't say anything to anyone else. Everyone has their own freedom, personal freedoms. I can't interfere in anyone else's engagements, business. Everyone has a gun. Everyone has the ability to use force, and so on. Meaning, to begin with, they've built according to their ego, according to the lack of their belonging to one another. They've established such laws and have developed in a way where no one feels that he owes anyone.
Just by the way, you were mentioning guns. The American people, American civilians, have more personal firearms than any other army in the world, in absolute and relative numbers. Why haven't centuries of living on the same land, speaking the same language, having the same dominant faith, and fighting even a war of independence together, why hasn't all that forged the American people into a nation like any other nation? It's true that they all came from all over the place, but they came mainly from Europe, at least the nucleus, the first immigrants. Why haven't they become a nation like any other nation after centuries of being there?
At the foundation of the country, where the French and the English fought, the Germans thought that the German language will be the predominant language instead of English, and so on. There were wars between them too. It's not that everything was great. That's one thing. Another thing is that they followed the egoistic development that everyone has freedom. Freedom meaning what? Freedom to use man's nature, and our nature is egoistic, so that's how it came out. That really, to this day, there is no more egoistic country than the United States. And even though that it allowed them to develop it, see what happens on the streets between people, how every American doesn't want to accept the other person, that I can do whatever I feel like, and I'm allowed to do whatever I feel like. And all the federal laws only support the relations between us somehow. It's not enough. They have not built one nation, one country, but their entire division into different countries that are foreign to one another, as if it's all based on man's egoistic nature, and therefore it cannot exist anymore. The Americans will have to make a serious change, go through a serious change.
What do you think is the change that they need to do?
They have to understand that only the connection between them, above the feeling of separation, above the rejection, above the force of ego that pushes them away from each other and positions them in a way of mine is mine, yours is yours, we can't touch each other, it's not enough. We're living nonetheless in one nature, in an integral nature, and we have to find the correct way to exist with one another above the dry laws that, like every other nation, has a feeling that they're a part of the same nation, that once they came from some couple, husband and wife, and from that came the German nation, French nation, and so on, from generations ago, yes, but still, it exists in everyone, and this is something that won't disappear. The American nation will have to build for themselves such a feeling that they are a part of the same nation.
Because right now, of all the crises that America is facing, the one that seems the most foreboding is the social crisis. Tensions in America are so high right now that it seems as though the protests against police brutality could easily escalate into a civil war. Do you see something like that as a possibility?
Undoubtedly. If they still have the ability to stop it, ease it somehow, make the opposite out of it, actually overcome it. If among them there are such people, special people, white, black, of all kinds and races, that can build some kind of group that will lead the American nation with all of its variety. I don't see it happening, but maybe they will be able to do it. If not, they have no future.
If they can do it, then it needs to be a group of people made of all the ethnicities and within the American people. The group has to consist of all those.
Yeah. Everyone, yes. They have to understand that the law of mutual guarantee responsibility that nature demands of all of mankind in general, this law, first and foremost, has to be implemented in a society like the American society, which is the most egoistic and developed society, and there it has to happen.
And such a group that's made of all the races and all the ethnicities in the country, what should they do in order to pull the country toward peace, toward mutual guarantee, rather than toward disintegration.
Yeah, exactly. This is what they have to publicize and to educate the entire generation. That love covers all crimes. That all the different forces and hate and everything and the ego that everyone has, we have to, upon all that, to build relations between us, seeing things for how they are. We are different. We don't stand each other. True. It's all true. By nature, that's how it is. But on our part, nonetheless, we have to find the ties between us that are above nature.
Of connections, of ties, can we find among ourselves that are above nature if within nature we can't stand each other?
Within nature, we can't stand each other. It'll only go and grow, and not only in America, but all over the world. Even if there you have nations. You come to some place, you have a nation. And the nation understands that it belongs to itself and that this connection is nonetheless, that it exists in it, whereas not in the American nations. But because of that, the American nation can show everyone the method of connection above all differences, above all the hate that exists in it.
So that's my question. What kind of connection can Americans find above their basic separation?
Connection against that?
Kind of
Actually,
connection.
connection means it's called the connection of mutual guarantee, that all of us have to be each other's guarantors, responsible for one another, otherwise we will not allow our nation or country to exist. This is called mutual guarantee, that I'm responsible for others. I feel, if other nations, they feel themselves, they feel that they have some kind of mutual responsibility, mutual guarantee, because they belong to the same progenitors from thousands of years ago. The American nation has to reach this feeling that they belong to each other in a, let's say, artificial, not natural way. But this approach is even better. It's even more advanced because we can be interconnected since we are apart. We live on the same planet. We're part of the same nature, and all people too belong to this as well, that we can show the entire world, all nations, all countries, what is the future, how we can be interconnected. Otherwise, altogether, all of us are facing the eruption of a nuclear war and the end to humanity as we know it.
Realize that if one side falls, the other side falls as well?
Yeah, of course. No doubt. They have to be educated, taught. And therefore, the government, federal government, world government, the UN, UNESCO, everyone have to understand this. But the Americans, they'll start doing it. If they start doing it, undoubtedly they will be able to really set the correct example for the entire world, the only example that brings us out of the pandemic, out of everything. We have no future, but in an integral connection under the power of force of mutual responsibility between us. And America is suffering not just so, but it is going through these stages in order to reach its good future.
As they say in America, if there's a will, there is a way. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Lightman, for a fascinating show, for your words.
Good luck.
And let's hope for America that they can unite above all their differences. Thank you all for watching. Thank you again, Dr. Lightman, and we'll see you on the next show.
Good luck.